Good evening. I'm Father Russ Carmichael, and this is Street Talk. I want to thank you all again for letting us into your home, and we hope all is fine with you. And tonight, I got a great show. I have a man on here that I am so pleased to have back on. He's returning again and does so much work for us in the House of Representatives. It is Representative Bruce Morris, head of the Black and Latino Caucus and Deputy Speaker. Okay, so I have Bruce with me, and I am so pleased. Across from me, as always, my troublemaking friend who goes in and sees all the Republicans for us, for our Republican friend, Dominic Cotton, my co-host. And again, Dominic, I'm glad you're here. Bruce, so good to have you.
Always a pleasure.
Always great to have you back.
Honored to be with both of you.
I kind of want to break in right away. Because we talk about race relations and stuff like that, and some people say different than other shows. Very kind of open and everything. And I just gave you Ralph Ham's book, Blackberry Juice, and Ralph is on his 47th year in the Massachusetts State's Correctional Facility. Now, we're working on the juvenile sentencing bill that will take people who have life parole and give them a second look. That kind of bill doesn't even affect Ralph on his double life sentence. Nobody killed on his sentencing and everything else like that. Very, very tragic. And I happen to look at his situation as the epitome of what happens to a black teenager with no good representation. The police, on his situation, he had two older offenders. They threatened the older offenders in between New York and Massachusetts, threatened to kill one of them with a gun to make sure that they would say what they wanted them to say, which the youngest one, who happened to be Ralph, he might have been the biggest and the tallest, but he was the baby, and he got sentenced. And Massachusetts hasn't let him out. Tragic. Graduated cum laude, Boston University. Has done everything right, and they just continue the systematic, what we call torture, of a human being. Yeah. And even with all our laws, and I didn't want to put you on the spot today, but I did, because we talk about this stuff heavy, and this stuff is going on all across the country, and it's tragic how bad we are.
Yeah, well, you're not putting me on the spot. I mean, I'm glad you're saying it, and you keep saying it over and over again, because certainly Ralph and the rest of the Ralphs of the world
right.
Victim to situation. I mean, this is tragic. 17 years old.
Yeah, baby.
All right. I mean, his story is a good one to say, listen, this is why we need to do this in the state of Connecticut.
Absolutely.
Right? All the degrees that he's gotten since he's been incarcerated, his prolific writing style. I mean, he's writing. He's giving back. And we talk about Department of Corrections. Well, I guess I think this young man, whatever bad mistake he made back in 1968, certainly wasn't culpable. You're right. There's not a body. This judicial reform has changed since then.
Right.
And this young man, older young man now, is not being given a chance for a second look. This is the kind of guy I would want to have out on the streets,
right,
going to high schools, going to schools, going to community centers, telling his story, helping kids understand.
He was a leadership in developing black educational programs in the Massachusetts correctional system, okay, with hardly any tools. Through Boston University, he got black teachers in there, okay, through his work, and with the union. We developed the union, and prisoners, it got certified and then it got decertified because of, it became powerful. And I really believe he's paying for those things. And again, does educational program, develop historical education. I studied black history because he's my friend, and he studied Celtic history, interchange for interrelationships and dealing with stuff like that. I mean, we're talking about real leadership.
He's obviously not a threat to society. He's an asset.
He's an asset
that we need to use to a greater extent than what he's currently being used.
And this is not just. I mean, he has had an opportunity to go in front of the parole board, and that doesn't take away anything within that. It's also when you look at the parole boards and how they're made up. So it's not just a second look, but it's also being realistic within this. And I think the biggest discovery I think you made recently was about how they managed to, I'll call it extort. Extort.
We waited for this book. It's in this book.
To extort the confessions from the other two gentlemen and how they pinned the most horrific parts on Ralph.
Yeah.
And Ralph, you know what, to his credit, and I say this, he has never said that, just in order to get out of jail, said that this is what he did. He is stuck to his story throughout the whole thing, and now they have the backup that goes along with this. But he just got denied parole, and I know one of the reasons they're putting out there is because he won't admit to the most horrific part of the crime. And that's the part that really gets me. Is here is did he participate in it? Was he witness to it?
He
fully admits it.
He claims he fully takes responsibility. In the situation, but this doesn't just. There's a lot of Ralphs.
That's the issue.
That's the issue.
Yeah.
Okay, and Ralph is a poet. He's a prison poet. He tells the story. His story is a lot of guys, a lot of people that are in there, and that's the tragedy of what's going on. One of the one before, told him that he can die in prison for his convictions. His convictions is, I'm not going to say I did something that I didn't do to be let go. I'm not going to do that. Okay? I'm an educated, he basically told him, I'm an educated man now. I am not a 17-year-old kid. I am 60-something years old, an educated man, and that I'm not going to say that I did something when I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay? And the guy told him, well, you can die in prison.
Sounds like Ralph was a more honorable person than the person making the decision. Someone who's willing to stick to truth when they understand that truth may keep them incarcerated, particularly after the long length of sentencing he's already endured. Says a lot about his character.
Says a lot.
And again, we have more Ralphs that are out there.
Oh, we got a lot of them.
And that's why it's imperative. I mean, fortunately, we've gotten the bill passed through the Senate.
Yeah, right. Which was very, very happy. A lot of work.
Can't give Dominic enough kudos. Last time we heard Dominic is so much behind the scenes, get things done. He's moving, he's shaking.
Moving and shaking, right?
No, seriously, he understands the political process well.
People
he
down.
does. He does. Well,
but you're doing phenomenal work.
Yeah.
We really can't give you enough kudos for it.
Exactly.
Especially for all the young people who've been given life sentences, who've been given extended terms in prison,
right.
For doing some things that developmentally they should not be held accountable for, 30, 40, 50 years later. It's just
no, and that's really the trend. However, the racial situation interweaves in this diabolically, huh? You really want, and people really want to study our system. It is so tragic that. And we see it across the country.
Okay.
Worse than I've ever seen. I would think the 60s were bad. What's going on? We're shooting kids in the street.
Yeah.
We're militarily arming our local police force.
Yeah. So how far do we want to get into the weeds on today's show? That's what it,
as far as you want.
I love the title here, Blackberry Juice. And you're right. In fact, I was watching all the newscasts last night when I came in, and I'm watching a story about this young man in Baltimore now. You look at the video.
The one that was shot right in the back.
Oh no, this is the young man that was tackled.
This is the other one. We're talking every
they were
day. You're
both down in
looking at this.
Baltimore,
This
weren't
is
they?
horrible.
11 days have gone by now, and we still don't know. We still have the full autopsy reports on what has happened. But there's reports that, the police, they tackled him in one place. He's moved to another location. Some witnesses say they saw them with his feet almost pulled up to his back. And but all of a sudden, you got people videoing. You see this guy being lifted up. He's yelling. He's screaming. And no one's giving him aid. Instead, they're picking up and moving him to a paddy wagon. And clearly, you can see the guy cannot get up.
Yeah.
They're alleging, oh, no, he just didn't want to get up. But he's screaming the whole time. They're driving this guy through town in the back of a paddy wagon without seatbelts. At the end of the day, this guy dies.
Oh,
he has three cervical discs that are fractured and blah, 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 blah. So you know the story. So people are raising up, they're saying, how could this happen? The mayor said that, listen, there was no good cause for them to have arrested this guy. Right? Just because he's running, so you've got too many stories here, people getting shot in the back, even if they were doing something that was wrong. Oh. They're being chased. Lethal force is being used.
The other guy, the old guy, was he as old as me? Okay, said he taser. His taser, a taser gun.
Made a mistake.
How do you make a mistake? You don't make a mistake. Any gunman knows. And you got your taser over here, your gun over here. Well, if you go you didn't go for the taser. You went for the gun and you shot the guy. Okay? It's so clear. This stuff, I am so angry.
So it comes with race relations. We're going to be very clear. Because we have a lot of officers, and I think everyone agrees, the vast majority of police officers that come in to protect and to serve.
Absolutely.
They do.
They do. No question about it.
And we just recently said this during a public safety hearing because some police are taking offense to the fact that we are raising the issue that there still is an injustice. So we always want to preface things by saying, listen, for all those great officers that are doing it, we applaud them. They need to be honored. They need to be respected. Absolutely. In fact, quite frankly, we would hope that they would help us to weed out the bad guys.
Exactly.
Because if it's about protecting and serving, well, guess what? We have predominantly African-American males that are in all these different situations where you've got the guy who had, maybe child support and down in South Carolina or whatever. And this is a guy that's running. There's no good reason. He definitely gets shot in the back. Come on, there's too much of this going on, and we actually see a police officer who's there, sees what's going on, sees the guy planting evidence, and things aren't happening. It's worse in the 60s, it's worse in the 50s, worse in the 40s, and we need to change this. That's why we have this situation on the other end where we have the Ralphs.
Right.
Because it's the first stage where a police officer has their discretion to determine how far they're going to take the law.
Yep.
How far are they going to escalate a situation? They have the ability to do that or not. And unfortunately, we have too many officers that are escalating. I heard something last night that really captured my attention. And it was a gentleman that put this on the back of media to some degree. And he says, listen, you take a look at the movie industry and everything else, and the way it characterizes African-American males, all right? There's a stigma. This is an African-American male. I know it. You walk into a store and people grab their pocketbook. You sit in an elevator, they'll grab their pocketbook. Just because you're African-American male. It's the way we are characterized. So now you get police officers who maybe aren't as culturally competent, and they're treating African-American males in a way that, guess what, if it's a white guy running down the street, would you chase him? No. But it's a black guy. What really is a crime-ridden community or not? So these are the questions that need to be answered, and we need to deal with it. Community conversation is starting. So on our public safety meeting, we're sitting here with police chiefs who I'm happy they're coming along, because the issue that we're raising now is, I care about the police officer who's the good guy,
right,
and I care about the victim who's the good guy, but the stories never get straight. So why can't we just put body cams on everybody? Why can't we put body cams? Wouldn't that make a big difference?
Yeah, sure.
But we're getting resistance. Why would you want to resist something that tells the story? You have another bill. All right. So police departments get in trouble or whatever. We already got a law that says people can videotape. But we've got instances where people are videotaping. Their cameras are getting taken from them, broken. Sometimes people are getting physically abused.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So guess what? Simple thing. Shouldn't you as a police officer, if that's what you did, shouldn't you be civilly liable? Shouldn't the person be able to sue you?
I believe so.
No, there's resistance.
Right.
So how do you end up becoming a law enforcement entity, but yet you don't want to be held responsible? How is it that when you have an issue with the Alvin Penn Act, which police chiefs across the state acknowledge, it's a very simple piece of this. It's like a 2x3 card that you have to give a person on any stop. Any stop. This is, here's how you at least make a complaint. If I did the wrong thing, here's how I make a complaint. They recognize they've not all fully complied. New bill says, well, guess what? Electronically now, you're going to have a printer in your car, and as you're doing the stop, this thing's going to automatically print the receipt that you're going to give the person. Doesn't that make sense?
That's nice. I like that.
Resistance.
Resistance.
And that's why I ended up telling my story that a union president blasted me for. So I like the irony of this. So I'm a state representative, right? Which means I'm the voice for the voiceless.
Right.
I'm the voice for my community. Right? Chairman of the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus. I went to a hearing. I did not intend on telling my story, but it just happened that week I was stopped. All right? And I wasn't given anything at the end of that stop. And God is my witness, that light was green. That light was green, and I got stopped. I was respectful. The officer was not. He was tough, hard-nosed. And I'm asking him, officer, what I'm being stopped for? License, registration. Officer, same thing. He runs my plate. I'm not going to get into all the detail. But at the end of the day, he came back and tells me, well, you know what, you went through the light. And well, your license, your insurance is about to expire. You need it. It automatically rolls over. Since when does a police officer tell you that at a stop? And then, well, I'm out here looking for drunk drivers. Well, I didn't do anything to be a drunk driver. So which one is it?
Exactly.
And in the end, he gives me nothing. I get nothing. I cannot begin to tell you. I told that story. It changed the hearts of the police chiefs. But I had a union guy that got up and says, he wrote something. I never even got the mail to this day. He wrote something that says, Morris is wrong. How could he say this? You can't tell what color a person is from behind. He should have used the process to complain. Hold it. I didn't get the thing to even tell me how to complain. So if it's about that, and guess what? I didn't have my legislative place. So this was an experience like Joe Citizen.
Oh, okay.
I told him this, make sure you make that clear.
No plate.
This was like a Joe Citizen stop.
Okay, right. Right.
And I'm telling you, Father Russ had my hands on the wheel. Hey, I've been stopped before.
Oh, yeah, well, you
with
better.
things going the way they are, I turned my dome light on. I was fearful.
Oh, I don't, yeah. I
was fearful.
I can imagine.
But to have this union guy stand up, and you got to stand up for your people. But to discount what I said, you weren't there. And if it's about complaining, well, guess what? That's what my job is to do. Number two, and they acknowledge their guy did not give me that piece. He broke the law.
Yeah, okay.
So we need to change. We need to change the paradigm here because, again, we need to take care of good police officers, but we got too many black men, too many brown men, but it's predominantly black men who are being shot, killed on the streets, tased to death. And this has got to end. We've got to move to a point where police chiefs are working with communities. They're working more towards cultural sensitivity. They do have a new program now. It's called Fair and Impartial Policing.
Policing, yeah, I know. Dr. Eisenberg.
We're pushing for that.
I work with Dr. Eisenberg, and I did the University of New Haven the other night, Monday night, and which is basically in the class. It's a postgraduate class. At least 3 police officers, I believe 2 state police and a lieutenant from one of the towns, at least that were there. There may have been others. Actually, there was another guy who was police and just returned from military service. So it's a mixed group of about 25. Okay, and I do it once a year. Okay, and, it was talking about corrections and prisoners and stuff like that. But the same thing pertains to corrections and all this stuff. They all talk about what they want to do, but most of the time, who's missing from the tables is the grassroots people. And our discussion Monday night was, okay, and they're talking about they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and of course then I stopped and I said, going to do what to who?
Yeah.
And they looked at me. I said, you're talking about me. And you got plans without having me at the table. That is your problem. You are never going to solve the problem if you don't deal with the community. How can you go and say, oh, we're going to do this culturally, change things, but we're not going to go in the black community and talk to them? Right?
Yeah.
We're going to tell them what we're going to do for them. I'm sick of this.
Yeah. We're going to assume that we're culturally competent and that we know what the problem is without really going to the source.
And asking them what the problem is. Okay?
And then we're going to tell them, well, if it isn't working, because this is the other piece of it, well, here's a process, go complain. Well, you know what? We have legislators from Hartford, New Haven, which all clearly said, guess what? Complaining does not work in our cities. So that's why we need real proactive approaches, and you're right, Father Russ, where the grassroots people are involved. And think about it. This doesn't start there. Even school systems. Parents will tell you, we're held responsible, but we're never there at the table when you're making policy. So schools, corrections, police.
In New London, probably about 9 years ago, okay, they had all the trouble at the high school and everything else, and of course, you know which kids they were talking about was in trouble, okay? So they have this huge meeting, I mean huge, and they had all the parents come up there. Well, two different type parents, those who know the system and those individuals who are afraid, but they came to speak. And they would just not even they would dismiss anything they said. I don't even know how to say it nicely without being racial or anything. The economically deprived parents of the children that were dismissed in these big public meetings. I never went back to any of those school meetings anymore because you could see it's useless. If you are not going to be respectful of those individuals, whether you're better educated, I don't care what. If you are not going to be able to listen to what they're saying, respect them as individuals, you're never going to get anything done.
Well, I think one of the things that I watched, and I watched the other video of the other gentleman, it was the senator who was videotaped at that same meeting. He was discussing his experience, and I know another legislator was trying to equate that to what the Italians went through in the 40s and 50s and saying, well, you know, we got over it and eventually we were accepted into, you know, different communities. That doesn't happen.
No.
And it doesn't. And for somebody to dismiss those things, and I think the biggest thing was, you're going to tell me what my experiences are.
Thank you.
And you can't.
Yeah.
I can't know what it's like
it's systemic.
to walk through and feel that the same way that you would.
No, because it's systemic.
Yeah.
It's historical.
Yes.
You're talking from the foundation of this country. You're not talking how the Irish come over. The Irish were treated, you got to be kidding. However, not the same. I mean, we got the book, you know, one of the books I told you about. That's our problem is deep. Seriously deep, and nobody.
Well, people prefer to remain in denial, and you're right. It is difficult, particularly when you have systemic racism. It's institutionalized. It's in the fabric of everything that we do. And as long as people stay in denial, we're gonna have a problem. And there's a cost. I think we talked about this the last show. We talked of it a lot in terms of the loss of human capital, human potential. Okay, serious. That we're not tapping into. These are lost lives. We're incarcerating them, and it's a financial cost that we pay as a state, as taxpayers and citizens. I think there's a moral cost that we pay as a society.
As a society, of course we do.
We begin to marginalize, discount individuals. So if I could turn the curve for the moment, because at our last show we began talking about, because we talked about education, we talked about judicial reform and stuff. And we talked about in terms of our caucus this time and a third leg to the stool, because some of this only changes because, you know, you have different kind of power. You got military power, intellectual power, and you got financial power, right? And institutionalized racism will continue to be the case as long as there's an imbalance of power. And currently, I mean, we've got a system where people of color aren't as credit worthy, don't have the ability to get financing, certainly don't have the ability to get jobs or to become entrepreneurs. Despite the fact, and everybody knows that, it's there. The data's there to show it. It's a fact.
I know.
Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Some people say that's not the case. It's
Yeah,
reverse
yeah,
discrimination. We do something there. But that's factual.
It
The
is.
data is there.
Yeah.
So something we're trying to do this time around is saying, listen, it was all about jobs, the economy, and you're right. Because as a state, all of us are feeling the pinch.
Right, everybody.
So they said, well, guess what? Coming out of this, do we want to go back to what we had before? Where, guess what? Almost everybody has a job. Almost everybody has an opportunity to become an entrepreneur. The other people of color, you got a chance to become on subsidized assistance, and or you get 3 hots and a cot in jail.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, no. Part of the economy is about creating entrepreneurs. So you got a small business set aside program in the state of Connecticut, all right? Where for whatever reason we take state dollars. It was like $23 billion or so in 2012 or 2011. State spent. This is money in bonding. It's going towards all kinds of things, projects and project services and things. Well, guess what? When it comes to municipalities, they were exempted from that small business set aside program. The quasi-public agencies, they were exempted from this. They all got state money, taxpayer dollars. Small business set aside, automatically 25% of whatever those dollars are supposed to go to small businesses. 6.9% of that is supposed to go to minority and women businesses. It's been exempted forever. We're trying to get that overturned. Want to know why? Because during that same year, because it's been exempted, small business got like 300 some odd million. That minority and women businesses only got 63 million. Out of 20 some odd billion dollars. Right? Wow. Had they just turned that program along and said, hey, listen, here's $7 billion of it that we're no longer going to be exempt. Because school construction alone is between $300 to $600 million. Most people of color learn a trade. They've been involved in trades. Something you can teach anyone quickly, and they pay very well.
Yes, right,
okay?
Exactly.
Our thing is, guess what? Create that opportunity, get rid of that exemption, because now you're going to have people coming out of prison who now can get trades.
Trades. Right.
We're talking about second chance.
Second chance.
I need a second chance to go work at McDonald's.
I need
a second chance.
You know what I said? They talked about that. I said, McDonald's, forget it. You can't pay your rent.
Thank you. Guess what? These are now people that have an ability to become entrepreneurs or work a job. Or I guess I'm not working 2 or 3 jobs. I got a chance to be a better parent to my kid.
Exactly.
All right. So we're looking at the economic piece of this of making a difference. Bonding has been a challenge. The governor's setting $2 million aside. Some say this, all of your viewers know that. Guess what? We need more people to push to say, guess what? It's about jobs. I'm tired of paying for subsidies. I would rather pay to empower my neighbor.
Yeah.
I would rather invest. Not even payment. I'd rather invest in people. All right. Because we're trying to do this whole second generation approach to things, where it's not just about the kids, it's about the parents. So it's about economics as well. Father, it's about the economics.
The economics of corrections is it's $50,000 a person.
Yeah.
To have somebody in jail.
Exactly.
I mean,
on minor things, you're not talking bad guys like me.
So you're
talking
talking
about drug people.
5 years.
Yeah,
$50,000. That's a $250,000.
Yeah. So I'm saying forget your $50,000 you're doing there. Right. You're already spending $20 some odd billion here, but you're excluding this population. So include that population of taxpayers and let them become even more responsible taxpayer and part of society.
Yep.
And you're not adding to the budget. You're just opening the doors to give everybody an opportunity.
I'm closing down prisons.
Yeah, right.
I'm closing down prisons. I'm closing down a recurring expense.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
I'm closing down a future expense because we know full well that the fatherless generation. I talked about this last show.
Yeah, exactly right.
A girl who doesn't have a father around 7 times more likely to become pregnant.
Right.
A kid who has a father and mother in prison 7 more times likely to end up in prison.
Exactly.
I mean, the statistics go on and on and on.
Yeah, we know. You know, when I was sitting in the class, somebody said, "Well, we got to do a study." I said, "A study? We know what works. We don't need any more studies." I said, "We absolutely don't."
We got to stop.
One of the best programs in the country.
We got to stop paying for blackberry juice.
Absolutely.
Yes. Blackberry juice is too expensive.
It's way too expensive.
Okay?
This is outrageous. He should be out teaching.
Okay.
He developed Afro-American programs, education, to people learn where they come from. Learn that they got a history, that they don't come from the hood.
Wouldn't it be lovely to have him as an adjunct professor at a college somewhere?
Well, that's where
Great.
that's where he belongs.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he's in a
They won't
college right
let
now, a
me
different
in
kind
now.
of college.
A different kind of college. Okay. Well, some of the people that we've worked with and obviously are blessed that come out, this is what I was explaining at the thing.
Yeah.
My guys that got education, my son, they were talking about, well, education, you go in there, people get upset because you get an education in prison, and I went, yeah, and guess what? I'm not in prison.
That's right.
I'm not sticking you up. I'm not robbing you. Guess what? And guess where my foundation came from?
Yeah.
Prison. If I didn't start my college in there and I didn't have Mrs. Spiegel who supported our stuff, guess what? I would be, and my crew
So
would be
you're
robbing
proof
you.
that there is potential for the Department of Corrections to actually correct.
Correct.
And scarily enough,
Yeah.
because I mean, talking about the juvenile sentencing and the meeting that we actually had with Senator Fasano and Senator Kissel, they admitted all this stuff. They said this straight out. We know what all the problems are.
Yeah.
We know it's about education. We know
know jobs.
We know it's about jobs.
Yeah.
We know how to stop all this from going in a cycle. I mean, I give them credit because they came straight out. They were pretty up front. I know not all pieces might fit exactly well, but the fact that they did come up with an urban agenda
Yeah.
is the steps that we all need to take in the right direction. Whether they're the exact answers or anything else,
Guess what?
you know what? They come to the table.
I'm glad they're on that page. That's the wonderful thing about this session. I think we did talk about that. That Republicans have come on board with the whole Malta initiative, and which takes a good look at the system here in Connecticut,
Right.
and how bad it is. I mean, as a country, we incarcerate more than per capita more than anyone else in the world.
Anybody else in the world, absolutely.
All right. So to have Republicans on board, it says a lot. I think the good thing about this last recession is people have come to the point of saying, you know what, corporate greed and all this stuff took us down the wrong road. So, and not to stigmatize Republican Party, but typically that's where we have greater affluence, all right, and a greater role historically of protecting, larger corporations. And the change here in the state of Connecticut is a welcome one. We've had great conversations as the Black and Puerto Rican Caucus with Senator Fasano and Senator Kissel. All right, Senator Kissel has always been there with us on juvenile justice reform. People don't know that. There are people that understand this and realize we've got to make a change. We've got to make a change. It's for the good of the state. It's for the good of the country. I would say for Ralph and for everyone else, the good thing is that most of the really important laws that happen at a federal level, quite frankly, they start here in the state of Connecticut.
Yeah,
So doing this whole juvenile justice sentencing reform, I think, will have a great impact nationwide.
Yeah,
That's a hope.
When it was really interesting when him and I, when we started in prison, there was only 300,000 prisoners across the country, the nation. Now there's almost 4 million. It's unbelievable, unbelievable, and and we started to get people out, and then we had the drug war and all this foolishness that all of a sudden put, and which community did they go after?
Well, I'll tell you something about that,
Right.
because I obviously I do a lot of research and other things along those lines, and they were talking about a study that looked differently about drug addiction, and they took the people that were over in Vietnam that were addicted to heroin, and when they came back into the United States, they had the highest success cases of people that didn't go back onto drugs. And they did these tests with the rats. You hear the ones that you can either go for water or cocaine. Well, when they put the rats in a nice environment, gave them a little exercise wheel to do, gave them nice food and everything else, guess what? They weren't over there sitting there at the cocaine bar, going, I want another hit, I want another hit. Yeah. So it says a lot about your environment.
Of course.
Your environment
Who you
pushes
are,
this,
your job, your
and
creation,
where you
your
are in your
ability.
situation, and the communities that you're in the middle of, that if you were able to get outside of that, that you're not going to be in that same position.
Satisfaction, contentment, and a key word we all talk about, hope.
Hope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay? As long as you've got hope and you're not in despair, you're going to make the right choices. And particularly if you're content, why should you go towards something that is discontent? So that's interesting when we begin to talk about the governor's bill on the second chance society, which is a real paradigm shift from taking the whole drug culture, everything we do with drug policy, from one where we're just incarcerating and penalizing, and saying we're going to treat it as a health problem. Right? I got to say, unfortunately, I don't think the dollars are there to make it happen. The dollars even in the bill aren't significant enough. But it's great that we're having this conversation, because that's where we need to move from. Because if we actually treat it as a health problem, I'm not putting you away in jail, giving you a label that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life, going to make it difficult for you to get a job, instead of you've got a problem. You may even have a mental health problem.
Right.
And I'm going to give you all the services that you need. I'm going to create economic opportunities for you. If you're undereducated, I'm going to create educational opportunities for you.
Exactly.
We're going to turn you around. We all do better.
Absolutely.
You don't become the rat that goes for the cocaine, but the one that...
Well, I got a stepson that's in this exact position.
Yeah.
He's in
Right.
corrections right now.
Yeah.
He's in a facility. He, at a young age, unfortunately, he got addicted to opioids and all the pills and everything else. And he went through jail once in order to help him get off of it, because that was the only way his mother could get any control of him. He came back out. He was on and off. I got him involved in, what's the methadone clinic for a while,
Yeah.
and working with him with different things, and then at the times that he slipped back, but because he still had the sentence hanging over his head, he makes the mistakes,
It's tough.
and he ends up violating his probation, and he's back in, and the problems are still the same. His biggest problem is finding a job.
Yeah, and if he
And
has
he was white.
and if he has a kid, and if he has a child, like many of them do,
yeah, exactly.
we're going to put him in prison because he's not making. He owes $23,000 and he's not making those payments. I'm going to put him in jail for 50.
Yeah, exactly. That doesn't make any sense.
As opposed to creating an employment opportunity for him.
Right.
Make him help him be responsible. Help him be able to pay that down. Help him be able to be responsible for his child or whatever they have.
Yeah. So unfortunately, systemic and institutionalized racism affects whites who are in poverty. Or whites who are middle class at the lower end of the middle class.
Absolutely.
And that's what we all need to understand.
Again, the conversation is, we need to have the conversation. We really need to have, maybe it's happening. I'm hoping that it's happening and everything else. And it's tragically, the country needs to have this. This is, where we're going is so frightful. It just is. It's at a level that I've never seen in my life. And I can imagine my associates going out of their house in the morning, driving their car in the wrong neighborhood, whether you're a representative or you're Ralph, coming out of the house in the morning, getting in that car, and going in. You got to be kidding me. That here, you have to be like when I was in business, that here, when on the back of your head's got to, stand up when you go by a cop because you don't know, even if you're doing right. That is fear.
And that is the real fear of militarizing our police.
I'll tell you.
And people need to really think about that.
I know.
If they don't know, they need to get on a plane, go across the Atlantic Ocean, and go see what it's like in another country. When you get out in the airport and you see guys sitting like they are now on down in New York City.
In New York City.
Did we ever think that would be like that here in America?
Never.
They're sitting with automatic weapons.
Never.
I remember the first time I went to a country and I saw that. I said, this has got to be crazy. And then at night you're going around and you see all these signs on the walls where they're talking about the police or the mafia. Well, guess what? You militarize our police. Everybody can think that I need to do that to keep me safe. But you know what? Power corrupts, and it corrupts absolutely.
Yeah, you got
So
that right.
the America that we thought of 50 years ago, 50 years from now can be a totally different America
exactly.
that can look like one of those other countries, particularly if we do not bounce back economically as a nation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And it totally looks like that's the
Scary.
way we're going. It is frightening. And old, I'm in my 70s, okay? And I think everybody in their 70s needs to go back and look when you were a kid. When I was a kid, you ran out there, the cop walked the beat, you knew every police officer lived in the town, but everybody knew who everybody was. And that is not the case anymore. The cop doesn't get out of the damn car. He doesn't know all the shop owners anymore, or any of that stuff. And he don't live in your town. He lives 3 towns over, okay? So he's got no integration, and his family doesn't either. So I mean,
and it's not his fault.
It isn't
it's because we haven't proven what we really value. We haven't said that the value of that police-community relationship is so important that we will not allow our police budgets to be cut for community policing. But guess what? This is that important. I want the little kid to know Joe the cop. All right?
Right.
That I refuse to let that budget get cut. It's great to have the conversation. We need to have that. But that's what people need to understand. That there's certain things in our budgets as a taxpayer I want. I prefer to have teachers that live in my community. I prefer to have firemen that live in my community. I prefer to make certain that my police, fire, and teachers reflect the diversity of my community.
That's exactly where we are in New London. I went in there a couple of years ago, went to the chief police administration. We were having trouble in the Hispanic community, Black and Hispanic community. I brought in Dr. Eisenberg, a nationally known police, involved with the police, the community relationships. They got 5-star programs. We went in there, talked to them, and said, look, they'll come in here. And we were looking for 30,000 to develop the program with the officers and the kids and everything. A minimal, and we know very effective program. We ain't got the money. And in the meantime, we got the Spanish community blowing up, right? We ain't got the money. I mean, you can't get any better than who I had. Okay, so then Doc was so concerned about the thing, said, we'll do a pilot cut to see how it works for half the money. We ain't got the money. Police administration. The union and the rank and file were willing to, jump at the thing because they need to be put with the kids in the same room and they do a program. And it's proved very, very effective all around the nation. And they're in 5 cities here in Connecticut. We ain't got the money. Lousy $15,000. We ain't got the money for police community relations, which should be the most important. I think the most important. Police union was supportive of it, and everything else. Administration said, realistically, they may not add the money, but
you know what? I always believe people have money for what they want.
What they want.
We had a gentleman who was at the public service hearing. He runs an organization out of Hartford. I can't recall the name of the organization. You may better than I will, Dominic. But he shared a story about a program similar to that, where it's youth working together with police.
Right.
These kids are coming out there; they're respecting police, having good understandings.
That's probably
the kids are faring better.
They do better. Okay, they connect with the police. They learn who they are. Sometimes they pick up a mentor and everything else like that. It works. We know it works. It's been working for years. Okay, they've done it in Roxbury. We did it in Roxbury, in Boston. Okay, one of my associates works with them there, Paul Lewis. They absolutely they work with North American Family Institute. NAFI is one of their programs, but I mean, they've got great programs, and we know we've got studies, we got everything that says, look, these things are really working, and everybody says no.
Everyone likes affirmation. If you recall, last time I talked about a program we do in the schools called Positive Behavior.
Positive Behavior, right.
Well, guess what? If affirmation, if rewarding people, incentivizing people works better than penalizing, you know what? Through the police system or whatever, that's where we need to be.
We need to
spend those dollars.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
I don't know, basic behavioral, like, because I've worked with people in the mental health field forever.
Forever, right?
You got two kinds of reinforcement. You got positive reinforcement where you give somebody something. You got negative reinforcement where you take away like a painful stimulus, or you get timeout.
Yeah.
All right. You want to know the ones that are the two best, the most effective ones? They're actually the negative reinforcement. Taking something away, a painful stimulus away from somebody is the most reinforcing. That's why people have so much difficulty with drug addiction is, you know what? It masks, it takes away the pain, it gives you a feeling of being high, and so makes you feel good for that time, except it just doesn't last. Whereas, the timeout, I keep my kid, he's got like a little timeout bench in the house. You know what? It only works for so long.
Yeah.
And then you don't care.
And it only works if he's got the level of fear within that. And so you're talking about militarizing. I went out to Middletown, this was like probably about 3 months ago, and I'm in the back parking lot, and I'm taking a look because it overlooks the police station. They got a freaking like personal, like, almost like an attack tank.
They got the
in the back of there, and I'm looking at this going,
yeah, the government gave them all those things from the war.
What do you need this
They're
for?
crazy.
What kind of riot are you like anticipating, like this thing going? And who are you going to mow over in the process?
Oh yeah, you should see all the gear that they've given. The feds have given them across. The paralegal stuff started with, you in case of bank robbers, people like me, odd stuff like me, you needed to have a SWAT team. Well, okay, so you're in Chicago and you need a unit of SWAT. In Bohoken, wherever, who needs a SWAT?
You don't.
Peoria, I'm in Peoria. I worked, as the custodian in the police department. My very unique experience, which was, and once you're in the departments like I was, they treat you like you're part of their brotherhood and everything. Peoria, Arizona had a SWAT team. I mean, what do you got? Old people. I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, this was, 20-something years ago in the 80s, and they were developing a highly sophisticated SWAT team with the machine guns and all that. I went like, who needs this? We might meet you out there.
But that's why I said they have to create the fear, and the only way that you can break down fear is, you're right, the community policing, and personal relationships with people, and investment, with people where you come to understand who they are and what they're about,
right.
And you can't get that unless you're interacting with people.
You're not going to build trust with a tank.
No. You need to
It's
get
easier,
rid of that.
It's easier to build trust.
No.
You build trust sitting across the table with people, face to face.
Face to face, work it out. It's hard in the beginning sometimes, depending on our communities that we're talking about.
Yeah.
But if you get that equipment in there, guess what you're going to do? You're going to use it.
Yeah.
That's what happened in corrections, same thing. You watch the goon squads, they got the beatings that they have and everything because they got all this fancy equipment that is used to be aggressive on prisoners. Yeah. Once they got it, guess what they're going to do? You're going to use it. It's like, I got my gun. What do I go for, my taser or my gun? Well, it's a black guy. I'm going to go for my gun. I mean, you got to be kidding me. I mean, this stuff has gotten to the point that it's just horror.
Oh, yeah. I reach for my taser, I shoot you by accident, and I go before a judge who lets me go to the Bahamas on a vacation while I'm on bond.
While you're on bond. But that's because if it was a black officer and it was a white guy, see you later.
Yeah. And someone will view this and see you say that, and they'll say, "How could they say that?"
I get that.
But they don't understand but they don't understand that perception is reality, and this is a perception for the vast majority of people of color. I'm not going to say everybody, but for the vast majority of people of color, for the vast majority of people who are white and aren't filthy rich.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, because economics has a lot to do with this as well, but certainly for the vast majority. And that perception will not change until we are deliberate as a state and as a nation to say, we need to go back to find out what do we really value.
What do we value?
America's
Where
business
are
is business. Well, business will not do well when we do not include everyone in business. We don't prepare everyone to be a part of and have a role in business. And we stop letting our ancillary business be incarceration.
It's true. It's true.
Because that's the ancillary business. That's
Yeah, I don't think that we should, make corrections a monetary thing where it's, outsourced to people that really have no investment in it, aside from making sure that their beds are filled.
It's the second.
And that's the problem. That and I'm glad it doesn't happen in this state to that degree that we hire our own people and everything else.
Well,
but you go out west, you go in Texas.
They changed that. Okay, and they ship people out, but that was changed within the past 15 years, I think. Where we were shipping people.
Yeah, we were sending people to Virginia.
We were sending them to Virginia, and the horror story that happened over there. But and the problem is, prison's a major business. Second largest in the country. Medical stuff is probably number one, I believe. But it used to be the number one business. Okay, so that's how all those private industry got involved in that and everything. And it's a horror story. It really is. And it doesn't work. They violate everybody's rights, and all you do is create animals. Okay, Ralph is fortunate that at least he was in Massachusetts. That Hadley was at one time the leaders in reform and stuff like that, but they have since changed. We have to be, I believe, we now lead the
Connecticut.
The
we have the opportunity to show the country the way.
The way, right?
And again, I believe it's those three legs of the stool.
The
three legs of the stool: education, the economic piece, the judicial reform. Put them all together, a comprehensive approach, and we'll show the country the way.
Right. I know that I'm running close to time, and this is always a great conversation with you. I could sit down with you day in, day out, as you know.
Likewise.
Because we follow the same.
Love you guys.
Same issues, same type of thing. But I want to give you a chance. Is there anything on your agenda that you're looking at that's, I know all this is a lot. This is with you all the time. I mean, is there anything special going on?
No, the big deal right now it's the budget.
It is the budget.
Right now, it's there. We've got a tough budget, a horrible budget, a lot of wonderful bills that could do fantastic things, but the revenue isn't there. So even though there's some wonderful things, not too certain they'll all get done. It's going to get down to what do we value. It's tough.
It is.
So this is a conversation we'll have to have again after the budget is done to say where will we really be. But I would say to Connecticut residents, don't look at taxes as taxes. If we're doing it for the right things, look at it as strategic investments. Because in order to do the things we're talking about, there must be some strategic investments.
Yeah, exactly, and that's I guess that's the scary part to a lot of people is they got to shell it out. Okay, they got somehow we got to come up with the investment for all those things, and it means going into your pocket, and but if you want hope.
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly all the belt tightening has to happen. That's gonna be there. There's no choice.
There's no choice.
It's that bad. The belt tightening is gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't want to tighten your belt and not think about hope for tomorrow. But I've still got a plan that'll get me to some good places.
Yeah, exactly. Right. It's well.
So thank you.
I'm looking at. Thank you for being here. Okay, Dominic.
We got 2 seconds because we just want to tell people that
who we got.
We're over here in Seymour doing this taping, and we want to thank Wayne Johnson. We want to thank Ray Martins, and we want to thank Melissa Leonard for running the studio and doing everything else. I know their credits don't come up on the TV. We gotta change that at some point and re-update our intro and exit, but. I just wanted to thank
Yeah,
them for
thank them.
doing
It's
this.
so wonderful
Yes.
to, we do this studio a couple of
Yeah.
times a month
Yeah.
and everything else. They're wonderful. Wayne is so great back there dealing with us. And I want to thank, I was on his wife's show the other day on why they call me father. Oh my God. She got me into that, and it was a very interesting show. So I want to thank my audience. I'll see you next week. God bless you. Please pray for me. We pray for you.
Please.
Okay? And we can say goodnight and thank you very much. They can run this street anytime Wayne is ready. Bless you all.